They led us to a place where there was no plan B. That's not leadership, that's resignation. And where are the resignations? Where are the firings? Maybe General Milley should put down the Robin DiAngelo and pick up the art of war. The upside, no more arguments over the meaning of the word stranded. We got a good visual of that at the podium yesterday. Biden is stranded, when really it's on the Democrats and the media. They only wanted Joe to win, but not to govern. And now he has to lead, and he can't. And don't even think of impeachment. Who could replace him? It's incredible how the woke embrace has destroyed the Democratic Party. You can't lead a country you think is racist while obsessing over pronouns and crackpots and Viking hats. So we ended up relying on the Taliban to keep us safe. That's like letting Charlie Manson babysit your kids. It reminds me of the Portland mayor who decided to make peace with Antifa while shafting the cops. We chose a regime that stones women to death for showing too much ankle at the expense of our troops. So why so many smart people making bad decisions? Well, maybe they're not that smart. Or maybe politics polluted their decision-making, driven by a still fresh loathing of Trump or our country itself. Having to get out by the end of August was a political choice, a self-induced deadline with the emphasis on dead. Not providing adequate security, another political choice. We couldn't have that many troops there, right? That's bad optics, they thought. Well, I got worse optics. A target with more sitting ducks than a decoy factory. Remember how under Trump it was a new crisis every day, every hour? CNN told us the walls were closing in. From the Steele dossier to the tax returns and every phony scandal in between. Those scandals were the good old days. High caloric, low nutrition, outraged junk food. Compare and contrast to now. Kabul's the real deal, real horror, real scandal. A blind consensus of sheer incompetence. So what do? Well, I'm no military general, but then again, does that matter? We must take responsibility for our people over there, get them all out, and obliterate those responsible for the bombings. And when we're done, we can decide what to do with Joe and the rest of that clown car. Think about this. After committing 20 years to one effort, we accepted the very opposite of that effort, quickly and without looking back. Like a husband who tells his wife and kids that he's going out for cigarettes, only to never return, leaving his loved ones vulnerable and unprotected. Someone should pay for that. But in the meantime, I don't want to hear about January 6th, climate change, mask mandates, or voter suppression, or whatever gassy, stupid political theater you're trying to peddle, until you figure out how to get us out of this mess. But maybe asking them for help to get us out is as stupid as relying on the Taliban for the same thing. Welcome, tonight's guest. He's so white, he thinks oatmeal is ethnic food. Fox News contributor Tom Shalhoub. He's the second most popular Joe on the show, writer-comedian Joe DeVito. He's the third most popular Joe on the show, comedian Joe Mackey. And the first thing she does when she wakes up is thank the gardener for mowing around her. Fox News contributor, Matt Joe Tip. All right. So, Tom, how did you feel after listening to the Biden speech? Did you feel confident in his abilities to lead us?
Well, it was similar to most of his press conferences. He was completely out of it. That image that you showed, the most interesting thing about that image is really not the image itself. It's that he couldn't answer the question.
Right.
So Joe does things when he can't answer the question. Sometimes he laughs. It's always inappropriate. Sometimes his laughter. Sometimes he buries his head in his hands. Sometimes he says, "Come on, man." But the amazing thing, if you search this on Google and you look around, the mainstream media, the way they wrote about that image, which is, we're not going to forget that image. He was stuck. He didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
They said things like, Washington Post said, Biden shows frustration with reporter. Obviously an emotional moment for Biden. It wasn't an emotional moment. He couldn't answer the question. And the thing is, even if that's your interpretation, that Biden was showing frustration with a reporter, that's not a story.
Right.
The story is he can't answer the question.
Yeah.
So that's
not good. Joe, my defense, which I had there briefly in the monologue, is that it really isn't Joe's fault. because it was the Democrats and the media who just thought that he was the best chance to win, despite his decline in faculties and his inability to lead. So they put him forward. They said, we'll worry about leading later. We'll put him in there. So isn't this more on the Democrats and the media who pushed him there, not so much this befuddled, sad man?
Well, he's definitely a befuddled, sad man, but before that, he was an obnoxious blowhard for about 40 years.
That is true. I stand corrected.
Keep in mind. Yeah, I have as much confidence he's going to lead us out of this. He couldn't lead Andrew Cuomo to ladies' night. That's how out of it he is. He's pathetic, and I see the amount of spin they're trying to put on this. They are really losing touch with reality, because if they're trying to say, well, we had to get out of Afghanistan eventually. Okay, I think almost everyone agrees with that.
No one disagrees. Yeah.
In hindsight, we probably could have gotten out of there in 2006.
Yeah.
Because I really think the only nation building we should do is the nation that's located between Mexico and Canada.
Yes.
We don't need to mess with these other countries.
Right.
But it's a difference between saying you're on a bus and we need to turn around. You apply the brake, you pull over. You don't veer off the road and smash into a brick wall.
Right.
And say, but I stopped the bus. Isn't that what you wanted?
Yes.
So what we're seeing, it's not a failure of our troops. It's not even, I hate to say this, I don't even think I can blame the Taliban. They're doing exactly what they've always done. It's the people who are supposed to be in charge of this country. And when Obama was quoted as saying, don't underestimate Joe's ability to F things up, I think we're just seeing the beginning of that.
Yes, to use an old adage, you can't blame the frog for what the scorpion does to the frog.
Yes.
I don't even know what that means.
Sounds French.
I got that off of Cracker Jack. No, Joe, I don't know what your feelings are towards Donald Trump, good or bad, but I'm asking you to hypothesize, would he have done this?
It's a tough question to answer, but it is weird to hear Joe Biden say, I'm stuck by that May 1st deadline that Trump negotiated to withdraw, but by my calendar, it's late August. So it's also a weird situation to me, because I got fired from telemarketing for being too polite.
Yes.
Yet it seems like the Washington Generals have more success against the Harlem Globetrotters than the Generals in Washington have success in anything. But they never seem to lose their job, and it seems like when they create a disaster, and then I turn on a lot of mainstream media, and it's the same people that were involved in creating this disaster, that they're like, hey, how should we get out of this disaster? There's no consequences ever.
Yeah, and Biden was part of the disaster for 8 years. And he pretends like he was always against this, and it's not that hard to find tape of him talking about nation building. You just type in Google, but Joe Biden, nation building.
You can even go back a much more recent history to where he said that the Taliban wasn't going to take over, and this wouldn't look like Saigon.
Yeah, yes. Wrong on both counts, Kat. So you hosted a radio program today in which one of your callers was your husband, a veteran who spent time in Afghanistan.
Yes.
Any wisdom to be shared with us?
Yes, wisdom all from him, not me, but it's been really crazy watching him watch all of this for the past few days, starting with before the horrible things that happened yesterday, just seeing troops and Taliban standing next to each other.
Yeah.
He said when he was there in 2012, Taliban were like ghosts, and the way he put it was, we never saw the whites of their eyes till after we shot them dead.
Right.
And going back to the generals and the leadership, he's saying that, when he was there was sort of the end of the time period where it was really a combat operation. So he was wondering if those troops who lost their lives had ever even seen combat before this, if they were not trained properly. He said there was basically things like spread out and this and that. And of course, it's not their fault, but all of this, there should have been time for that training. They just let, these guys were sitting ducks, all for the sake of a symbolic deadline for political points.
Yeah, that's all it was, to get it so that Joe had something to say on 9/11 and 20th anniversary. I love, one thing I say before we go to break, I love how the media is saying you shouldn't be talking about impeachment because that cheapens the whole process. The media that had pushed for 2 impeachments, one based on a phone call. And in this case, anybody talking about impeachment is talking about it based on a rage over the death of Americans. But talking about it in that vein, that just cheapens impeachment. But about that perfect phone call.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Fox News Alert now, the war in Afghanistan is officially over, as Jennifer just said. The last American warplanes carrying U.S. troops have left Afghan airspace, and the Taliban announcing it is officially in control of the Kabul airport. The Pentagon says American citizens are still there, and the State Department will work to get the remaining Americans out. Secretary of State Antony Blinken set to speak at any moment on this breaking news. We'll take it on our table first, though. Pete, having served, this must be filled with a lot of different emotions.
Yeah, it's almost surreal to see that banner at the bottom right there. America ends war in Afghanistan. I will say this: setting aside all the criticisms I and many others have had, I am very glad that every one of our boys at this point is off of that airfield, off of that kill zone, off of that X. So you can talk about what was mismanaged. You can talk about the future, and we're going to talk a lot about that, about the people left behind, about the about the legitimized terror states that's there. But ultimately, I got to tip my hat to the Pentagon using an element of surprise, moving earlier than many people would think they would, and getting all our boys back. So it has not been a smooth process. We've lost 13 American lives, almost 24 additionally wounded. That will not be forgotten, but it's a good thing that we're not a target of ISIS-K or Al-Qaeda or Haqqani right now.
Rick Gutfeld.
I agree with everything Pete just said. So that's all from me. No, I'm kidding. No, but I do agree. I think that it's a relief to know that this is over, but we know that in some ways it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, we also know that the analysis will not be over. If that was over, I'd be out of a job. But the fact is, it's just weird when you hear, like, it is a new Afghanistan at the same day that you hear that they executed a folk singer. So there's all these other elements out there. And then, of course, you have these conflicting stories about whether or not ISIS and Taliban, they hate each other, but then why did they release all the ISIS people from prison? I don't understand that either. The demilitarization, is that what the word is, for the equipment? He mentioned a few of it, but there's like tons and tons. You saw that graph that came out yesterday in the Times of all the weapons. I think, so, but the real thing now is who's going to be accountable for the big botch? Because that's what this is. This was the big botch, and it's actually oddly a blunder made up of smaller blunders. And I don't know if it's all Joe's fault, but it sure feels that way because he's the guy at the top. But we need to find out. I mean, like, did the Taliban actually offer control of the airport, and did we decline that? That's a pretty huge blunder, and it's paled by the other blunders. But you can keep going through them and find them. I think it's an important thing to look at because I think it's going to be. I don't think.
Thank you so much for the follow, Hugo. What's up, bro?
Or and certainly possibly beyond. Geraldo, you were there many times and covered many war zones. Not covered many ends.
Well, I was not here on the 5 last week, so I want to express how gut-wrenching and heartbreaking those deaths were and how that affects everything, including my analysis.
That was my fault. I got greedy.
It was an incident. It was more than that.
it's Az here from Heel vs. Babyface. Just something I want to say before I get into the video. When Netflix tend to get their hands on a anime and try to do a live action adaptation of said anime, it doesn't tend to work out particularly well. I mean, you just have to look at Death Note as a prime example of that. An absolutely incredible anime that they wanted to just reduce down to a 90-minute movie, and it was awful. It was just goddamn awful. So when the news came that they were going to adapt Cowboy Bebop, another beloved anime, into a live action, let's just say that hopes weren't particularly high from a lot of centers of the internet universe. And you can kind of understand, particularly when you look at the record of Netflix recently with their goddamn woke agendas, the absolute repugnant piece of shite called Cuties, which they have on there. And you could almost predict, because virtually immediately from the announcement of this, it was announced that Faye would have her costume changed. Now then, this is how Faye looks in the anime from a cosplayer perspective. And I think this looks legitimately great. Sure, it's an attractive woman, but the outfit itself, she's done a really good job on. She's got the hair's looking great, the wig's looking great for her. With the yellow band, she's got the red cardigan that's draped over the shoulders, the yellow top, crop top, and she's got the yellow hot pants, the stockings, and then of course the white shoes. She's got a gun because she's dangerous, and she's got a cigarette because she's a kind of femme fatale as well. For a cosplayer, I think this is an excellent representation of Faye Valentine. I really, really do. So, if they wanted to tweak it, for whatever reason, I do not know, let's just say they say, well, the hot pants are a little bit too revealing because you get a little bit of anus around the back, then you could maybe just lengthen them a little bit to prevent that if you so desired. But other than that, I think the costume itself is pretty darn good. If you want to zip up the top a wee bit, even though Faye doesn't, but if you want to zip up the top a little bit because of practicality, so be it. But again, great representation. This is how they're going for the live action version. The images dropped the other day. You got John Cho as Spike. I think John Cho looks pretty good, I gotta say. I think his Spike outfit looks awesome, pretty decent. Jet Black is now living up to his name. Because they race changed. Okay, doesn't matter. And then Faye Valentine's completely different. The stockings are now tight by the looks of it. The pants, completely different, darker. She's now wearing the jacket, which is kind of meant to be compensating for the cardigan. And then the yellow top is the yellow top. There's no band. Okay. And she's wearing higher boots. So there was criticism from some corners about this outfit. That it didn't really represent Faye how the others have. I mean, these are two pretty accurate representations from the anime itself. If I just scooch this up a little bit, you can kind of get an idea about Spike and Jet Black outfits. So even with Jet Black, they're trying to get the facial hair. So they kind of tried with the other characters, but with Faye, it just appears that they've made an artistic decision that some people disagree with. Now, as you can gather, because there is criticism that his live-action Cowboy Bebop photos have incited horny male outrage. horny male outrage. What's wrong with a man being horny? Just as FYI, what's wrong with a man being horny? Just saying. Nothing is the answer to the question, by the way. So, this is from Salon.com. The outrage centered on Daniela Pinder's Faye Valentine, who was originally designed to wear revealing outfits. Most fans are feeling the hype. The author of this article says, with zero quantifiable evidence whatsoever. But many male internet basement dwellers, ladies and gentlemen, it's another misanthropist, another misanthropist to add to the list of cat piss stinking women. Thank you very much indeed, Salon.com. Are quite predictably rallying on social media to protest the unthinkable injustice of an on-screen woman existing while not being dressed or designed to titillate. No, the source material, Faye, she's hot. She's hot. And she uses it to her advantage. But don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Because this is about, again, taking away femininity, defeminizing women. Because, heaven forbid, males might actually find them attractive. Is it just me? Manga, is it just me? Or is the world mental nowadays? Yeah, no, manga's agreeing with me over there. Stop laughing. Stop it. We're talking about... So I think there's a legitimate reason to criticise this if you so desire. Do I think this looks like Faye? No, I don't. I don't think it's a decent representation of Faye at all. Even if they wanted to play with the costume design, I don't think it's come out particularly well. I don't hate it, or I'm disgusted by it, or anything like that. I'm not going to go that far, but I don't think it's a particularly good representation of Faye. Certainly considering the other two efforts, and considering that cosplayers, as ever, tend to do it better. But, folks, our story doesn't end there. No. Faye Valentine, Daniela Pioneer, decided to take to social media herself and, as ever, attack the fans who dare be critical of the outfit. So let's have a listen, shall we?
Hey guys, so as you know, our Cowboy Bebop first look dropped today, which was so exciting, and I just wanted to address a couple of things that sort of keep coming up.
Please do, Danielle. Please do address these points which keep coming up. If they keep coming up, do you think maybe they're valid criticism? I don't know.
The comments amongst fans. First, I wanted to apologize to the fans that I did not anatomically match the Faye Valentine character. 6 foot, double D size breast, 2-inch waist.
Faye Valentine is not 6 foot. She doesn't have a 2-inch waist, and she doesn't have double D's. They're somewhere in the region of C's, by the way. But no, it's okay. Hyperbole, we get it. We understand. I don't think people are particularly criticizing you as an actress, not anatomically meeting their expectations. No, this is certainly more to the outfit which Faye is actually wearing. And so, nice straw man, but no.
You know, they looked everywhere for that woman, and they couldn't find her. It's kind of weird. So they...
You're funny. You're a funny gal. I'll give you that. You're funny. You're sarcastic. I love a bit of sarcasm. Some people don't. I love a bit of sarcasm. It's the passive-aggressive attack on the fans, because this is a beloved anime. This isn't just some, bit of child porn that Netflix whipped up to stick on there. No, this is actually a beloved anime that's been around for a long time, that's being messed around now with Netflix in live action. So maybe just give them a little bit of credit because that's being fucked about with. All right? Cheers, darling.
They just went with my short ass. I know. Am I
There's nothing wrong with you being a short ass. You're very cute. You're an attractive woman. Get over it.
right? You know, there was talk about, like, can we put Daniela in a time machine and maybe give her different parents?
Okay, this is now getting pretty pathetic. Okay.
And so she has different genetic information to sort of make her look better. It proved to be too complicated. And the other thing I wanted to bring
No, not even remotely funny now. You're just being childish.
up was I want to apologize that the outfit I'm wearing is not exactly what she wears in the anime. You know, we tried, but doing stunts in tissue paper, things disappear.
Tissue paper. Okay. Where's the tissue paper? I'm looking for the tissue paper. Oh, you're saying the tissue paper is garments which are like the hot pants and the top, because then they don't cover absolutely everything, and therefore they must be tissue paper. Okay, right. So it's actually a stab at the outfit from the source material from the original anime that has all the fans. Gotcha.
Rip sometimes just got. Anyway, like I was saying, that original costume, they made a couple of them, but like I said, they got sort of slurped up in my various crevices, never to be retrieved again. So
Don't ask.
we needed to really build something that could withstand the test of time. So just, you know.
Hey, Neil, with 3% cash back at drugstores from Chase Freedom Unlimited, you're always earning. I got this.
Can I not beat this shit?
So it's not even out. You've had your first costume reveal. You've shown everyone that you're really thin-skinned and you can't handle any criticism whatsoever. You're saying that this is the best that they could do as a representation of the Faye Valentine outfit. If that's what you're saying, then I think you're absolutely open to criticism. You're also saying that if you were to wear something like this, the hot pants would go up your ass. Your tits might bounce out a little bit. Well, they can be certainly hankered down with bra-ridge and other wranglings. The zip could be lifted up a little. No problem. The hot pants could be made to be a little bit longer. You know, just little kind of things which could have been better. But no, you decided to attack the people that dared criticize a beloved anime that they've likely been a fan of for a long time. It shows how complete and utterly out of touch you are. It shows how little you give a toss about the people who are actually going to, hopefully for your sake, watch this live action adaptation. And when an actor gets sarcastic like this, and when they get on their high horse like this, it just kind of turns people off to go, fuck you, fuck your show, fuck Netflix. All right? So maybe just be a little bit more humble. Maybe just have a little bit more respect for the franchise that you're actually dealing with here, if you're actually bothered to do any research or anything like that. I'm beginning to actually debate that. And maybe just take your ego out of the equation, because you are very, very thin-skinned when it comes to a wee bit of criticism about the outfit. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and YouTube for live streaming. Links are in the description box down below. I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.
Demon Souls Remake is a technical marvel to shep. In the new generation. For better or worse, underneath its glamour lies a game largely the same as the 2009 original. I've already done videos dissecting both what I love and hate about it, which I'll link in the end card, so today I'll be focusing specifically on my likes and dislikes for the handful of things the remake did, or didn't change in a significant way. Keep in mind that the love-hate series is mostly hyperbole in name unless otherwise noted, and this is merely my own take on the remake's accomplishments, or lack thereof. Now, without further ado, here are my 10 things I love and hate about Demon Souls Remake. My first love is increased preservation. With Dark Souls getting a remaster into the recently retired generation, Demon Souls was the only entry in the series isolated on a single, less accessible platform. In spite of any middling gripes I have with Bluepoint's reimagining of the original, preservation of games is paramount. I said it in just about every video I made discussing the remake. I was excited to have the game for myself on a modern platform, but even more giddy for so many Souls fans that were drawn in over the last decade to have a chance to play its origins. Granted, many of you are still waiting for PS5s to be less rare than the pure Bladestone. Eventually, though, the great tech launch droughts of 2020 will be a distant memory, while Demon Souls Remake will be among the consoles still waiting for PS5s to be less rare than the pure Bladestone. Eventually, though, the great tech launch droughts of 2020 will be a distant memory, while Demon Souls Remake will be among the console's modern library for years to come. One of the most important preservation aspects is my second love, the return of online multiplayer. It was a sad, if understandable day when the sun set on Demon Souls Online in early 2018. The game was long past its peak, with invasion and summon signs being all but non-existent. Even so, it was disappointing to lose the option to participate, and especially sad to see years of messages and bloodstains be swept away. If you'll indulge me in a bit of a tangent on Demon Souls history, let's return to creator Hidetaka Miyazaki's origins. After joining FromSoft in 2005 completely green to the gaming industry, he quickly rose up to direct two Armored Core titles in 2006 and 2008. It was during this time he discovered a floundering internal dark fantasy project. He requested permission to take on the code and make of it whatever he wanted. His perspective being, it's already a failure. It can't get any worse, so I'll take this as a perfect opportunity to test the waters of my outlandish development ideas. And so Demon Souls was born. And you know what? It was a failure. The game was regarded as a flop upon its initial Japanese release. What Sony and FromSoft didn't anticipate was word of mouth that spread like wildfire. Whispers of a game with difficulty harkened to brutal retro games of old. Mysterious systems like world tendency and players invading your single-player world as enemies, and a way to leave behind whispers of your own helped fellow players slowly generate an exponential buzz surrounding the game. Enough for an eventual North American and European release that also exceeded expectations through online buzz, creating a hardened fan base. A Souls community that would explode as the series rose in critical and commercial dominance throughout the next decade. If it weren't for Miyazaki's ambition and the community's passionate attachment to his game's unique online quirks, Demon Souls very well may have faded into obscurity, an alternate timeline absent of the extended Souls franchise. Personally, that's not a reality I want to live in, and it's all the more reason it brings me joy to see Demon Souls Online revitalized so vibrantly. Rampant invasions with absurdly broken builds, janky lag that makes you wonder if people are still using dial-up in 2020, messages giving information critical to your success, and helping your fellow Demon Slayers claim victory are joyous experiences that I've sorely missed in the world of Balatari. Not content to merely restore what was once lost, Bluepoint made strides in my third love, the quality of life changes. Load times are near instant thanks to fresh hardware. You can refresh art stones without traveling back to the Nexus to facilitate farming. Teleportation between art stones is possible upon defeating dragon gods, streamlining travel, an element that is especially helped by being able to transport items to stockpile Thomas from afar when your inventory burden maxes out, and they even sped up the comically slow ladder movement. While all of these are remarkable changes to the game's flow, there is one unfortunate side effect. My favorite hub in the franchise, the Nexus, feels almost obsolete by the halfway point of the game. You'll still visit to transfer goods with Thomas, level with the Maiden in Black, and visit the Magic America worshippers if that benefits your build, but with inventory burden and travel streamlined, you'll find yourself there far less often than before. Brief respites in the Nexus between jaunts through Balataria's harsh worlds were fun moments I feel are somewhat lost in Remake. Especially when you consider my first hate, the music. You might think it's sacrilege to cast a shadow upon a franchise full of musical bangers, and while Demon Souls' reimagining of tracks do have a number of hits, there are just as many duds. It seems that the popularity of Dark Souls 3's swelling orchestras and epic operas had an impact on this soundtrack. An OST originally comprised more with variety and subtlety. False King Alon's tune felt akin to a Golden Age horror movie monster's theme, an ominous organ that created tension through fewer notes with hard impact. Listening to the updated version, it's hard to argue that as a standalone piece, the track doesn't slap. But think of the story context. The dying prince who failed in his mission to slay the fake demonic husk of a king atop the tower wishes you finish the job with his last dying breath. As you slowly creep up the elevator to see what awaits you, I didn't feel as if I was in for an epic battle between two legendary warriors. Instead, I was being drawn into the most sinister archdemon's lair. Each note of the organ slams the gravity of that terror into me, matched by Alant's battle prowess. Remake's theme, while competent, completely loses that atmosphere. Tower Knight's iconic is completely lost. The legendary theme of the Nexus is a distant memory, making it feel even less like the beloved hub I remember. Worst of all, Maiden Destria's iconic theme was replaced for yet another swelling orchestral epic that hardly resembles the original. Instead of evoking a twisted feeling of pause at your actions, a reflection of the tragic circumstance, and the pain you feel as you carry out your mission is lost amidst a throwaway theme more appropriate for a thrilling battle. More confusing than any of these misplaced reimaginings was the choice to set the music volume at a whisper compared to all the other game sounds. One of the reasons the Nexus theme feels so absent is what replaced it is so quiet you can hardly ever hear it. You have the option of cranking the music balance to 10 and lowering everything else dramatically, but audio mixing like that should never be necessary. The new soundtrack is hardly missing excellent tunes to listen to without context. But when you reflect on their purpose compared to the originals, more often than not, Blue Point handily missed the mark. Strike 2 continues with a change I was actually all for, but was hammered into overkill that landed us in an uncanny valley. I hate the NPC's over-animated faces. I was all for losing the tight-lipped telepaths of the series' history for actual realistic dialogue. What I didn't expect was overkill to the extent they look like puppeteered caricatures of human beings. Looking at the insane range of expressions they go through in a single paragraph makes you wonder who the real demons are. Because as far as my real-world experience goes, I've never seen someone's mouth, eyes, brows, and cheeks do a hyperactive shuffle like these NPCs. Which is only the beginning of my third hate, the aesthetic overhaul. Much like the music, the original had distinct art chosen with purpose. Adjudicator lost his golden skin, tribal tattoos, and flayed mouth to match the original old hero in favor of becoming a generic fat bastard with titanic nipples. Old King Doran looks like someone requested a stripper in his armor. False King Alant looks like my grandpappy. Fat ministers look more grotesque and less sinister. Stockpile Thomas looks pretty jazzed for a guy who abandoned his wife and child to their death. Maiden in Black got a boob job. The warped miners of Stonefang Tunnel lost their scales, making the blacksmith's visual nod with scales suggesting they might succumb to the same mindlessness completely lost. And Patches is just... God, that face perfectly reads shipper. Ultimately, how you feel about these changes is going to boil down to preference. I personally prefer the art direction of the original, while I can hardly argue they don't look more graphically competent in Remake. Which is why the technical overhaul is my fourth love, but before I move on to gushing about it, I think it's fair to drive home that much of the visual storytelling is lost in Remake in cases like the Blacksmiths, or with atmosphere in cases like Alant and the Fat Ministers. That said, praise the 60 frames in one of the most technically proficient games ever made. Demon Souls Remake plays like an absolute dream. Particle effects out the wazoo, rock solid frame rate in a performance mode that doesn't compromise visuals, vibrant color that brings life to a dying world, updated textures that may lose some points in aesthetics but look tremendously impressive all the same. There's heaps of praise I could lot on Bluepoint for doing what they do best, taking something old and making it shine brighter than a diamond. I may not be a fan of their liberties in art direction, but I'm undoubtedly a fan of their technical prowess. Unfortunately, when it comes to things they didn't change, there's one distinct element that sticks out like a sore thumb. Demon Souls Brain Dead AI is on full display, and I hate that they didn't update it. There are dozens of examples I could give you, but there's none better than Maneater. My boss ranking already went into depth there, but suffice it to say this duo of potato brains has erratic behavior you couldn't predict with 100% accuracy if you were clairvoyant. Sometimes he'll be mid-attack animation and abruptly stop and instantly cut to doing something else. Other times they go flying off and can't seem to land for nearly a minute. And every now and again, they shut down completely and let you wail on them for free. There's other cases like Alon's Charge having ungodly tracking, Carl Vinland popping off about half the arena away from his target for no reason, Flame Lurker hopping around like the floor is lava half a dozen times, the list goes on and on. Many of these are made more troublesome with the updated frame speed. Maybe it's just me, but it feels like all of the game's animations are sped up ever so slightly. Coming from someone who played the original multiple times, I had to adjust to the game's new iframes and attack timings, as if they were altered at a quicker pace. I'm fine with changes like that, but I do wish they had improved the AI of the original to go with it. A tall ask, I suppose, when you consider how much work went into the visual overhaul, but I don't think it's too bold to suggest updating decade-old code in a remake you're charging record prices for. Even with that in mind, I can't deny my final love, the quality in their execution. Despite minor gripes and nitpicks, this is for better or worse 2009 Demon Souls as it was with a boatload of quality of life updates. Though some may steal away charm from the original, like the altered music and aesthetics, and others make it painfully clear you're playing an unrefined formula like rudimentary AI and more obtuse mechanics, this remake is a technically stunning way to play the Souls series origins in all of its glory, with plenty of extra benefits such as stunning graphics, some truly notable quality of life changes, and a revitalized online community. Despite things I would change for myself, the remake's dramatic quality far outweighs the small hangups that are only speed bumps along a fantastic road through Balataria. A road that, when approached in a vacuum separate from these minor gripes, has always been one of my personal favorites in the series. But what about you? Tell us your thoughts on the changes in Demon Souls Remake. Of difficulty in video games has been a hot topic since its inception. From the obtuse yet simplistic design of the Atari 2600's inconsistent library, to the retro wars between Nintendo and Sega featuring astronomically challenging games marketed to an age group ill-prepared to handle them, to the internet's rise as a hub for sharing tips on those legendary challenges and flexing EPs once you've bested them, to the modern age full of gamers who take on absurd challenges with thousands watching on the edge of their seat. No matter the era, difficulty always finds itself at the forefront of the gaming world. The Oxford Dictionary defines the word difficult as needing much effort or skill to accomplish, deal with, or understand. Alternatively, it can be defined as characterized by or causing hardships or problems. Bridging together these interpretations of its meaning helps illustrate the fascination with difficulty as a concept. As humans, we have an innate desire to break the shackles of the adversity we face, to prove ourselves better than our supposed limitations. When we rise to the occasion, there's a level of euphoric response, a reaction that can be defined as rewarding. When held back by the hardships we face to a degree we're unable to overcome them, there's a sinking feeling of oppression, a response that can be defined as punishing. Understanding the fascination with difficulty as it relates to games is deeply ingrained in these two emotional responses. Balancing the level of adversity placed on the player is a fine line for the developer to tread between punishment and reward. This trapeze act can make or break the value of a game to each individual player, all of whom have varying levels of tolerance in the face of hardship from a medium task first and foremost with entertainment. When difficulty is overly punishing, a game becomes frustrating, and therein fails to entertain the player. When a game strikes a perfect balance between challenge and reward, however, it can elevate a game's entertainment value astronomically. Today I want to show you why, when designed well, difficulty in games is a strength that can inspire growth. I want to show you the subtle line between games that reward the player rather than punish them. I want to show you why difficulty matters. In the modern era, there is perhaps no game more synonymous with the word difficulty than Dark Souls. Existing as a siren call to players seeking challenging solo experiences during a time when multiplayer shooters and dancing games dominated the sales charts, Dark Souls resonated with gamers for its unapologetic difficulty. Through an almost cult-like reverence of the challenge it offered, word of mouth slowly spread, expanding its reach. After 6 months on the market, it garnered just over 1 million in sales. Nearly a decade later, Dark Souls and its 2 sequels boast over 25 million copies sold. This success viewed in a vacuum can put emphasis on a simple conclusion. There's a market for games with difficulty as a single prominent selling point. Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, and without fail, publishers look to ride this trend for a fat stack under the impression, if we make it hard, does anything else matter? As evidenced by the mediocre critical success many of these imitators achieved, the answer is an emphatic yes. Despite what these games lack against the rich ideas Dark Souls brought to the table in level design, character progression, boss mechanics, and environmental storytelling, discussions surrounding the game always round back to its difficulty. If all these excellent features take a backseat as part of a greater, difficult whole, it begs the question, what is so special about the difficulty of Dark Souls? Consider the ideas presented at the outset. By overcoming adversity, we are rewarded with an immense level of satisfaction. The phenomenon of Dark Souls' notorious boss euphoria is a perfect example. Watch any player conquer that one boss who's been destroying their soul for hours on end. That is pure bliss encapsulated in a single moment, and it's by design. I had no intention to make Dark Souls more difficult than other titles on purpose. It's just something required to make this style of game. Ever since Demon Souls, I've been pursuing making games that give players a sense of accomplishment by overcoming tremendous odds. From the lead developer himself, Hidetaka Miyazaki never set out to make a hard game, but he understands the value players get from overcoming seemingly insurmountable challenges. With added context of the quality Dark Souls holds in the eyes of critics and fans, there's a deeper layer to this statement. Not only was Miyazaki's vision to create a world full of formidable challenge realized, it was done with a remarkable standard of quality. This blend of intentional obstacles and meticulous care put into every ounce of Dark Souls design was the genesis for its triumphant difficulty standard. To illustrate this masterful juggling act, let's consider Dark Souls' approach to progression within a level. The primary constraint against your ability to traverse the dangers of Lordran are your healing resources. The Estus Flask is your primary method of healing, a tool that has limited reserves. Within the levels of Dark Souls, you'll stumble upon bonfires. These bonfires not only replenish your Estus entirely, they can bolster its maximum charges through a small toll of your humanity. An item found throughout your journey, humanity can be used to kindle a bonfire up to 3 times. This progressively awards you with 10, 15, and eventually 20 Estus charges upon rest. However, the only path to kindling these flames is through becoming human yourself. Doing so will allow you to see the friendly spirits of jolly cooperation, in other words, the ability to summon players into your world. In turn, you are now subject to an invasion from bloodthirsty players who seek to steal your souls and humanity. If this all sounds like a terrifying trade-off, you can defer kindling a bonfire and consume humanity as a one-time full heal. If you think you can make it from bonfire to bonfire, there's no need for you to charge up a single flame, because your kindling is limited to that specific fire. You'll want to think carefully, however, due to the souls you carry. Every enemy defeated offers souls, Dark Souls' version of experience and currency. If you die for any reason, including running out of healing and finding yourself exposed, you drop a mass of souls and a bloodstain. You have one opportunity to return to the spot you died and retrieve what you lost, lest it be gone forever. Every time you traverse the world of Dark Souls, you have to consider how long it will be before you find another bonfire. This decision impacts your willingness to proceed within a level. The gap between checkpoints is littered with dangerous traps and enemies. Dark Souls asks the players to learn the patterns of these enemies, the perils of the world they inhabit, and forces you to consider at every step whether it's worth turning the next corner or running back in fear of losing your souls. As you progress further and further, your knowledge of the level's layout increases, giving you an advantage over your adversaries. A surprise ambush that once killed you can be turned into an easy opening for you to attack upon repeat runs. Slowly you begin to remember the attacks enemies throw at you. You begin to learn counters to their many assaults, and the traps scattered throughout the level become little more than scripted events for you to scoff at. All of
What's
this
up,
is to
Legacy?
say, Dark Souls rewards your time
Javian.
invested. The enemy placements, traps, and healing resources all crystallize as static quantities that gradually become more transparent. As the game throws new configurations, enemy types, and even bosses your way, you learn to adapt to the tremendous challenge the world offers. This is Miyazaki's vision realized, with an important caveat. Not only is the player subjected to intense difficulty, they're given resources, tools, and opportunities for growth that make this challenge feel fair. Estus and humanity are limited resources that can be relied on less when you invest in learning enemy placements and attack patterns. Proper exploration and study of the level's layout beyond this can make your journey more seamless through awarding new tools, shortcuts, and checkpoints. Bosses that cap your adventure through these areas are a study in action and response by the player, controlled entirely by how effectively you manage offensive and defensive gambits to claim victory. When you consider how well the majority of these elements are balanced, it opens the doors for them to be rewarding, win or lose. It may seem strange to suggest that losing can be enjoyable, but that's the result of the fair challenges rampant throughout Dark Souls' polished design. When enemies and bosses are crafted with a set of static rules, the player becomes the variable within the world. Your understanding of game mechanics, your study of enemy behavior, your implementation of character building, your dexterity, and reaction time. These all create a powerful presence in game that will be regularly antagonized by it in return. When games are balanced in a brilliant manner, self-aware players have room to admit that they are at fault and learn from these failures. The exponential growth resulting from these failures throughout your journey compounds your in-game presence into a tangible skill level, an imposing state that poses a rising threat to the game's overarching difficulty. In the words of the fans, you get good. Dark Souls encourages players who persevere past their mistakes by offering them a tremendous amount of satisfaction when they overcome the equitable adversity it provides. It's through understanding this relationship between well-designed hard challenges and the gratification it awards players that you see the value imitators so often miss. Dark Souls is not defined by its difficulty. It's defined by its ability to make difficulty rewarding. Dark Souls is far from the first notably hard game to accomplish this, and it won't be the last. Games like Hollow Knight, Bloodborne, Cuphead, Hyper Light Drifter, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Hotline Miami, and Dead Cells are all examples of curated, polished experiences rampant with high levels of challenge that are rewarding thanks to the fantastic balance in their design.
And that man focuses his attention on you. The world stops.
That's really flattering. You're beautiful.
Impeachment, American Crime Story. Premieres September 7th, only on FX.
This style of high challenge, shiny polish, big payoff game isn't representative of everyone's taste, however. There are plenty of gamers that don't want to be tasked with overcoming what can feel like daunting challenges, find the concept stressful regardless of how balanced they are, and would rather opt for what many would consider easy games. It's a patronizing designation, wouldn't you say? If you're unwilling to subject yourself to the high level of adversity imposed by a game like Dark Souls, why are you relegated to being someone who can't take the heat of a truly difficult experience? By my definition, difficulty done well emphasizes a perfect balance between challenge and reward. Consider an additional point made at the outset. Tolerance to adversity varies from player to player. While games like Dark Souls intentionally ask players to persevere through failure for a massive payoff, that's not a formula tuned to everyone's sensibilities. That doesn't make the existence of these highly polished, difficult games any less valuable for those it appeals to, but this brings up an interesting question for the inverse. If difficulty is a key factor in driving a game's quality, how does it manifest in these supposed easy games that appeal to a different demographic? To answer this question with integrity, consider the possibility that games of this nature are a mismatch for players that rely solely on dexterity and reaction time to achieve victory, or at least derive the most pleasure from games that challenge those qualities. Coming from someone who's beaten Dark Souls and its counterparts in ludicrous ways most wouldn't even attempt, allow me to share a game I find exceedingly more intimidating. The Sims 4. I cannot even begin to understand how the masterminds who pour thousands of hours into these games like it's nothing get out of bed in the morning without their real or metaphorical balls causing an earthquake. You think Artorias flying at you like a missile is terrifying? Nay, I say. Having 6 core needs all fluctuate between a daily routine that requires you to make enough money to properly meet them, house yourself with all the dang furnishings you naturally need, finding time for a compelling social life, and eventually add in a partner and children that you also need to manage requires a skillful balancing act that I find more daunting than facing fume night with a ladle. You might think I'm being facetious, but no, I'm dead-ass serious. While The Sims doesn't require you to react to titans of terror in an instant, it does require you to employ consistent problem solving, effective long-term planning, and resource management over hundreds of hours. These factors combine into an all-encompassing strategy throughout your playtime that requires as much cognitive skill as any use of physical dexterity. While you may not traditionally consider The Sims to be a difficult game, it is difficult for me. The sweet embrace of death in Dark Souls seems comforting when compared to creating a domino effect of existential crises throughout a Sims family thanks to my shortcomings. Okay, perhaps that's a bit melodramatic. A key difference in the way difficulty manifests in games that emphasize long-term strategy and resource management over spur-of-the-moment action is balance between punishment and reward. Although there are minor ways the game can punish poor planning, such as budgetary constraints or stagnating career advancement, these aren't devastating to the point it ruins your ability to enjoy the game. The game is forgiving to those who aren't skilled at juggling its many concepts, but if you're up to the challenge, you're handsomely rewarded for your mastery. This style of game offers exponentially greater satisfaction to those willing to invest wholeheartedly, offering near limitless potential for player growth. A shining example of this style of challenge lies in Stardew Valley. Tasked from the very start with nothing more than making the most of an inherited plot of land, the player has complete agency over how far they push the limits of its value. As you expand outside of your backyard, you'll bump into citizens eager to meet the newcomer, stumble upon a mine, a community center in need of refurbishing, all adding extensive layers beyond making a profit off your new acres. Though your farm is your baseline for success, the player is expected to learn optimal crop growth patterns by season while constrained by income and time. Choosing what crops to sell in exchange for more cash is key to ensuring year-long profitability. Don't forget to share some with the townsfolk, though, all of whom have different tastes for the gifts you offer, whether they be crops or some treasure you found in the mines. They'll award you with recipes and random gifts that can help you along your way. You'll need it for the mines because it's Stardew's least forgiving area. They're full of mild dangers, but also crucial power-ups like increased daily stamina reserves that allow more actions in a single 24-hour cycle. Oh, that's right, keep in mind you aren't only constrained by the clock, but how much energy each action costs. There's fishing, a museum to contribute to, the allure of marriage, monthly mandatory events, the community center revival project, ongoing farm upgrades to allow for ranching, greenhouses for better winter crop yields, and far more than I could ever detail.
Bro, I want to beat this guy.
In a 2-year anniversary
I just want to win.
From your dead grandpa, judging how effective you are at managing all of this equally to the tune of undisputed success. My short description barely scratches the surface of how complex these mechanics can be individually, let alone trying to prioritize them all against your conversion priorities and resources. Every piece of Stardew Valley becomes an ever-shifting gear that can flow as part of a well-oiled machine the player orchestrates through calculated effort, or it can stagnate, providing you with gentle nudges toward more successful strategies in response.
I'm gonna beat him. I'm gonna beat him right now.
Instead, it challenges you to make deliberate actions that consider the immediate, short-term, and long-term ramifications they'll have on
I'm gonna beat him
yourself
right
and the
now.
town at large. There's a consistent pressure on the player to succeed through minor decisions that add to a greater whole, to strategize beyond resistance to your goals, or, in other words, the difficulty the game inserts to make your ability to plan and manage resources rewarding. Games like Stardew Valley and The Sims offer layered challenge, one that gives as much as you put in. The more ambitious your goals, the harder it is to plan and manage your resources to achieve that standard. Though they may not wear difficulty on their sleeve as loudly as others, it is an integral underlying factor that adds exponential value to these experiences. It's for that reason I have just as much respect for someone who can operate a seamlessly successful Stardew farm or family of Sims as someone who can beat the toughest challenges in a game like Dark Souls. They all demand different skills that are equally impressive. A comparison between which challenge is more monumental feels pointless. At the point of success, both players accomplished goals they set out to achieve despite resistance from the game. They both excelled in the face of hardship, rose above a challenge set before them, and proved in a tangible way how much stronger and smarter they've grown within that world. To the Sims maestros and Stardew experts of the world, you too got good. Time spent emphasizing examples of difficulty done to a rewarding degree is key to driving its value home, but I'd like to provide contrast with a game that manages to be neither punishing or rewarding. Devil May Cry 2. This game is accessible to anyone who can hold down a single button. No strategy necessary. His dual pistols are all you need to beat the majority of the game's content. There's an argument to be made that, from the ground up, you'll have a much harder time getting a perfect...
One more thing I needed. What was that? To get some health. Wow, you son of... Clap it up. Clap it up for that bitch. 'Cause that was some real bullshit, son. You just got away with some bullshit.
Hey, it's me, your skin. I crave being clear without irritation. CeraVe Acne Cleanser.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sunburned Albino ranks every boss on PS5 Demon Souls from easiest to hardest. Having never played the original, a lot of things in this game made no sense to me at first, but after a 15 or so hour playthrough, some of them still don't, but we're still doing this. The bosses in this video are 18 in number. We're barely legal, starting from easiest and working our way to hardest. Number 18, King Alant. 5 or so of these battles won't have sound because I took them from a stream I did rather than a separate recording, and I had to mute all my hilarious and worthwhile commentary. King Alant sucks, but I wouldn't expect the fleshy sludge poop to be formidable. He's running his mouth the whole fight, and at the end when you kill him he's like, "You fool, don't you understand?" I'm like, no, I skipped the cutscenes and this is a Souls game. Number 17, Fool's Idol. The real fool is you if prior to the battle you don't run up the right staircase and run down the right hallway and execute the right and magical geriatric. Otherwise, every time you killed the Fool's Idol, it'll just respawn and laugh at you. I always thought of idols as like statues and carved representations. I didn't know alive women could be idols unless they're like American Idols. This chick and her clone's gonna sing some Kelly Clarkson for us? You want to attack the correct one or it's a waste of time. The legit idol shoots bigger magic blasts, and there's a trophy for never guessing wrong, which I don't have because I wanted to spread the love and give everyone a good pounding. And boy, do they take some solid damage. Watch them cast their magic circles on the ground and make sure you don't step where they got drawn, or this will turn into a cage match. 4 angry witches against 1 paralyzed barbarian. But this is a leisure fight where you can relax and take your time, so it's among the easiest. Number 16, Adjudicator. An adjudicator. I think I saw this guy at a friend's bar mitzvah once. I believe he was there to perform the circumcision. The adjudicator is a big fatty with nipple tassels and a pierced gut. 2 pierced, I'd say. It looks like it didn't settle in quite right, but who am I to question it? For all I know, giant laden belly is just the hottest new fashion trend. Maybe he was just trying to bedazzle his spleen. This man is actually so fat that he's immune to all damage. Never let a doctor tell you obesity is bad for your health again. As soon as you reach the 1,000-pound mark, you're immortal. Attacking the area where he misplaced his last cleaver will eventually stagger him and make him fall down, leaving the small glowing bird controlling his body completely vulnerable. I'm like super OP here because I'd already fully completed every other Arkstone beforehand due to my horrible Isle of Storms world tendency, planting a nigh invincible Black Phantom 10 feet from my spawn point that would immediately run over and one-shot me every time I tried to get anywhere in this godforsaken level, and you try running past him and a gaggle of tumbling skeleton gymnasts who roll faster than you sprint and stagger you every time they crash into you with their bony fucking asses. It was a problem. Co-op summoning in a thief ring eventually solved it. That'll teach me to do something stupid like die while human several times before I knew what world tendency was, because I weirdly preferred running around with full health and a free ring slot just like I would in any other Souls game. Silly me. Number 15, Phalanx. One day Miyazaki was like, what if sludge could think? And thus so many Souls game enemies were born. The Phalanx is a phalanx of shielded gooey blobs that all work together to shield the vulnerable big boy inside of them. They're extremely weak to fire, but unfortunately for me, I had apparently tossed all my fire bombs already, and pine resin doesn't work on a wooden club, although I think it should turn it into a torch. My lack of fire made this much longer and more annoying, but even so, it's still another leisure fight where you just walk around and look for openings to squeeze yourself into. Once the boss is exposed, there's nothing you can do, so you don't have to worry about stamina management. Number 14, Dragon God. This boss is technically easy when you figure it out because it's just stealth and activating turrets, but I was clueless forever, and I don't think how it works is obvious at all if you've never done it before. Not to mention the fact that half the time I got seen, I was like, yeah, I should not have been seen there. And getting seen generally means you die instantly. If you put on the thief ring, I think you should be able to just walk the whole way over with him never even knowing you're there. You fire the first massive arrow, and he's like, ow, who did that? Oh well, back to standing here. Then you fire the second one, and he's like, why is this randomly happening to me? Falls over, and then you can land the finishing blows on his chin horn, which he should not even have nerves in, so I don't know why that hurts. That's like if you were bleeding out on death's door, and the person who attacked you walked over like, this will finish you. And then he just started clipping your fingernails, and you died. My fingernails! The source of my power. Yeah, it's pretty dumb and it's not fun and I hate it. Number 13, Storm King. They really went hard on the gimmick fights in this game. In this battle, you gotta blast a bunch of stingrays out of the sky while Steve Irwin applauds you from beyond the grave. Just make sure you come in there with some free inventory space so you can pick up the sword the game wants you to use. Otherwise, you're gonna do some frantic item management while the weather forecast reads cloudy with a chance of deadly crystals. The Storm King is basically a B-52 bomber that flies overhead and launches mad projectiles at you. And the best part is there is virtually no telling whether or not your special sword's wind blast is going to hit him at any given time or not. I've hit him before I could even see him on screen, and I've missed him when he was 3 feet in front of me like I'm Mulan causing an avalanche. It's weird, but not difficult. Number 12, Maiden Estrella. I'd kill for whatever slippers this chick is wearing that make her immune to plague, because it's all over this tunnel. Maiden Estrella resurrects a champion from beneath a putrid corpse pile to battle on her behalf, and if I were me, I'd take advantage of the narrow cliff he likes to stand on at first, because it blocks a lot of his swings. Knocking him on his ass with my giant axe is always fun. There is a trophy for getting the Maiden's soul without killing the Jarl of Windhelm, or whatever his name is, and I have it even though I killed him, because soon after I killed him, I got infected with plague and took too long to store my inventory, so I died, leaving her alone. I spawn back in while the champion doesn't. I talk to the Maiden, during which she admits that I have killed her champion, and then the trophy's like, oh my god, great job getting the soul without killing the champion, we're so proud of you. But yeah, you can just talk to her instead of attacking her, and she'll just give you the soul and disappear. Wish more bosses were like that. About to head back into the
Are you
Leech Monger
serious?
boss fight with my silver tongue and see how it goes. Number 11, Old Monk. I haven't seen him dress this fabulous on a man since we started having national conversations about masculinity. Harry Styles sure got old fast. How a dress the size of 2 continents manages to wrap tightly around somebody's head like a turban is beyond me, but this AI Black Phantom boss doesn't have much going on besides a repeatedly activated homing orb launcher that can be dodged as easily as you can turn left. It plays like a computer who acts like a computer that's trying to act like a human, because it does some human stuff, like parrying for no reason far away, or just walking at you menacingly, but then it also attacks small obstacles instead of just rolling through them, and you're like, yeah, no human being would ever do that. The red enemies up the staircase leading to this encounter are more annoying than the encounter itself. Number 10, Dirty Colossus. Hell yeah, they named a boss after my junk. The Dirty Colossus is a hulking rot monster full of maggots, so naturally the most effective strategy is to stay as close to him as possible. You can lure him into a rhythm of dodging under his arm swipes and then just play with him like a disgusting toy. I know we're 9 bosses deep into the rankings so far, but there really isn't much difference in difficulty between Dirty Colossus and anything that's come before it. Demon Souls bosses seem to be pretty easy with only a couple exceptions, but they make up for it by ensuring that the distances you have to travel from the spawn point to the boss are as long and stupid as possible. Number 9, Armor Spider. Now that I am more knowledgeable about where to stand and when to roll, I would classify this battle as an easy one when done correctly, and oh my god, so annoying if you mess up. It's those goddamn webs. If you get webbed up either by the spider shooting it at you or just by you wandering into the sides of the arena, you can barely move, can't roll, and if the spider is gearing up to set the whole floor on fire, you're toasty, bro. It might be that swinging your weapon helps you break free and getting hit by a fireball is a sure enough bet, but I had a fight once where he just webbed me up all day and night. I felt like a two-bit criminal in the Miles Morales game. I was lucky the spider didn't turn invisible and electrocute me. You can roll through the spider's slice attacks with proper timing, or shield them if you're a shield person, and his slam attack can be dodged just by standing directly in front of him. His weak point is his little spider dick. At least I assume that's what it is, given all the sticky white stuff constantly shooting out of it. My right-hand weapon should have turned magic the entire fight. I call that an oversight. Alright, that's enough sex jokes. Let's class it up from here. Number 8, Penetrator. Alright, what do you honestly expect from me? We open on a guy getting reamed from behind while moaning and groaning. Then the health bar shows up for the dude skewering him and says his name is the Penetrator. They know what they're doing. They wrote and directed this little play. The Penetrator might be my favorite boss to fight. He's only got like 4 attacks, but they all have different roll timing, and it makes you feel like you're participating in a dance. A dance of penetration. Both partners trying to penetrate the other, each skirting past the other's thrusts and glancing blows. It's penetration or bust. Maybe and bust in that case. I don't know how much shield damage this guy does, but rolling is definitely way more fun anyway. Number 7, Old Hero. Man, it sucks to be blind. You can't even see where you're going. The old hero uses his other enhanced senses to randomly swing his sword in any given direction, hoping to find you. Unless you break a pot, in which case he homes in on your location faster than a predator missile can walk onto a school playground. His attacks are very dodgeable, though, and he staggers easily from heavy weapons. I beat him first try because I'm clinically a G. It's in my medical records. Number 6, Vanguard Demon. Of the 2 bosses in the game that are meant to kill you for story purposes, this is the beatable one. I died to him the first time I fought him, so I had to go back later on a new character to get this footage. The Vanguard Demon does hella damage and has the HP of someone not quite obese enough to be immortal, but if you stay behind him, you can slowly attack him from the rear and whittle down his butthole until there is nothing left. I guess the Vanguard Demon is technically the first demon ever to perform the swiftly patented ass crash maneuver, so we'll give credit to an OG even if his droopy nipples are the stuff of nightmares. Number 5, Tower Knight. Of all the battles, this one might have the longest prep time, from each very lengthy trek up to the boss while dodging the most annoying dragon in video games, to the crowd work you're encouraged to do with all the perched archers when you get there, just to die in 2 hits from a shockwave that always has way more range than you think. There's a trophy for killing the Tower Knight without attacking the archers, which is what I do here, and let me tell you, it's quite annoying trying to dodge 8 bolts every 5 seconds. You can't be still for a moment, and healing takes a moment. You've got to nip at his heels like the ankle biter you know you are if you want anything good to happen. He'll eventually fall backwards, and with any luck, his head won't be 10 feet deep into a wall because you need to hit that for the real damage. If he ever starts hanging out in a corner, you should draw him out before you knock him down. Otherwise, you'll just watch him sunbathe for 10 seconds till he gets up. Number 4, Old King Allant. I think this is supposed to be the hardest boss in the game, but it's 4th. Old King Allant is like King Allant, but less dung-oriented. He moves a bit like the Nameless King and also uses wind. Are they one and the same? I don't know lore. But like the Penetrator, Allant has his treasured few attacks and sticks to them, making him super learnable. A quick roll behind his lunging and jumping attacks, a quick hit when he tries to charge up his Storm Cloud. Just hang back at a distance and wait for all your favorite moves to get baited out and you won't break a sweat. Number 3, Flame Lurker. This boss has the most confirmed kills on me of anyone. You might think it should be number 1 in that case, but there are still other bosses who would have done worse if I didn't get lucky or briefly tap into my inner gamer god. The Flame Lurker is one of the most aggressive and combo-heavy bosses in the game, which I can handle if it's not paired with fire AoE damage and questionable hitboxes. I feel like I still get clipped half the time I roll backwards to evade a fire slam. He's vulnerable at the ends of his combos, which extend and change as his health gets lower. He also sometimes does damage just by jumping backwards, and if you're particularly close in front of him or to the side, you'll take about 20% of your health and haha fuck you damage, the worst kind. It's probably best to save this boss for later, but the Digger place was the first one I picked after Boletaria, and I eventually made it work after about a 2-hour-long loop of using all my grass on the boss, dying, going somewhere else to farm souls to buy more grass, using half of it just to recover from being forced to take 8 instances of fall damage every time I dropped down the pit, using the rest on the boss, dying, etc. Number 2, Man-Eater times 2. Man-Eaters. The only real multi-target boss fight, if you don't count the Fool's Idols, which I don't because they're fake AF and I don't even follow them on Instagram, they're so fake. The Man-Eater's attacks and patterns are standard fare, but there's still 2 of them, and that doubles the amount of Man-Eaters there are. The handy little PS5 dashboard tips and tricks feature told me to stay in the center, so you can kite them around the brazier, and that helps them not both attack at the same time. Highly recommend the Regenerator ring, because there's a lot of downtime in this encounter where one or both of the Man-Eaters will just kind of fly around taking in the sights and forget they're trying to kill you. I was hyper-focused playing this. I made good decisions, took calculated risks, and after like 15 minutes of holy shit, this same fight is still happening, I finally won. Go me! Number 1, Leechmonger. I don't know how much of a wild card this pick is, because I don't know the community consensus, but for me, the Leechmonger was the most annoying trash in the whole game. If you don't have great DPS, he's just going to heal more than you can deal while you squeal in frustration. You can't leave him alone for a second or he'll start regenerating. And every second you're near him, he just flails those squishy, sucky arms around which break through your shields and feel like too many hitboxes to roll all the way through. Not to mention your character's get-up time. Like, Jesus, are we hungover? You get knocked flat and it takes like 5 full seconds to tilt your head back up? Hello, dude, we're on the clock and you're swimming in a sea of leeches getting motivated. Every time she's on the ground, I just imagine her going, 5 more minutes. It's so annoying. Not to mention we're constantly getting our blood drawn, so we often have to choose between staunching our own problems or preventing the leechmonger from restoring a third of its health real quick. Certifiably hate this boss. The only tip I can think of is to just gain like 30 levels and come back when you can melt its HP bar. But that's gonna do it for this boss ranking. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Consider becoming a channel member to support financially and or tune into whatever random streams I'm doing at random times. Go through my video catalog because I'm very bingeable and I'll...
Today's the day to grab a Groupon experience. The hand grabs your soul. Grab a drumstick, grab a massage, grab some laser tag, grab the Groupon.
Hello everyone and welcome to Sunburned Albino ranks all the bosses in Dark Souls 2 from easiest to hardest. There's 41 of them. It's gonna be long. As such, I can't afford the time to waste on an intro. Sunburned Albino, show me the easiest boss. Number 1, Iron King. Because why not hit him with controversy right out of the gate? This should prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is in fact a Sunburned Albino ranking. The easiest boss in Dark Souls 2 is the Iron King. I'm doing no damage on account of my shitty, barely reinforced weapons. This was a transitory period in my build. If you have even a half-decent blade, you can cut through his arms and face like they're an arm and a face. He does a flawless impression of a statue for like 5 full seconds after every attack. I mean, if I had this dude's landing lag, I wouldn't make it out of things betwixt. Sure, he hits hard, but you dodge harder. The only real danger is you falling into that lava gap in the back, which has happened to every single person, so don't feel bad. Number 2, Covetous Demon. Just a fat, blubbery slug is the second easiest boss in the game. It has small, stubby arms that I can't imagine how they carry enough force to swing his whole body. Maintaining any kind of distance from the boss guarantees permanent safety. You can just run in and hit a few times and retreat, or just run in, hit a few times, hit a few more times, hit a bunch more times after that, and win. Number 3, Dragon Rider. I don't believe your name. Your whole identity is based on something you're not showing us right now. Here, you're just a set of armor with a halberd who routinely attacks himself off the stage if I don't widen the playing field. I chose to fight him honorably to show off how much he enjoys mooning you while he destroys whatever imaginary opponent he thinks he's facing in the opposite direction. Knock him unconscious with a blunt instrument and move along. Number 4, Last Giant. I don't know how this one outlived his entire species. Even the basic memory giants pose more of a challenge than this self-dismemberer. In the middle of the fight, he pulls off his own fucking arm because you can never have too much range when you're attacking someone who is always as close to you as possible. What you should have done was rip off your leg and play hopscotch like an elementary school amputee. That's one less target for me to hit, and you'd be constantly crushing my body. Just a good idea. Number 5, Prowling Magus and Congregation. Welcome to the boss fight that put Dylan Roof in jail. After a cave full of spiders, naturally it's time to shoot up a church. Whatever god they're praying to, you can be sure has abandoned them. Prostration is actually an effective method of dodging rapier attacks, apparently. Obviously, a big sweeping weapon could dust bust this entire room, though. Nothing they do is particularly dangerous, but if you get hit by enough small things with a previously drained Estus flask, you might find yourself at 1 HP, either finishing them off or getting ready to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. Number 6, Demon of Song. I always thought the Souls series was missing a giant frog condom boss. Glad they took my advice. When the Demon of Song isn't preventing pregnancy, he's tearing at the tip, trying to slam you with his gangly, rotten arms. This whole fight is a metaphor for how scary sex can be for women. Imagine your pond, all peaceful and still, until this thing starts flopping and smashing around in it. I'd be wary. Number 7, Aldia, the Scholar of the First Sin. This giant burning tree hollow, for how specific of tasks you have to complete to fight him, is pretty much nothing. You can hit him whenever he's not on fire, or when he's on fire, and just walk around most of his attacks. He does have one giant flame orb that you do not want to hit you, but while he's charging it, you get like 10 full seconds to blast him, and then you just have to sprint away. He can teleport around the map, which really helps him because there's no point to that at all. Also, yes, this is the Black Knight Halberd. Old habits die hard. Number 8, Vendrick. Vendrick is like an old man on life support swinging a sword at you. He's technically dangerous, but you'd have to be pretty careless to get hurt. For every giant soul you don't have in your inventory, the boss doubles his damage resistance, but I've got all 5 for this fight, so he's going down quick. Vendrick does a shitload of damage, but he only has 2 regular attacks that are really easy to dodge, except that time. Make like a retirement home and put him down. Number 9, Flexile Sentry. Hanging out in the stern of the ship is the Flexile Sentry, Siamese twins who poop into each other's buttholes and pulverize the same enemies. You'll want the mace wielder to be facing you. His attacks are a lot easier to dodge. The ship has started taking on water up to our waists, so clearly it'll be in fine sailing condition after the boss is dead. His combos are rudimentary and slow, so there shouldn't be any real problem. Number 10, Nishandra. Nishandra, the skeleton cosplay queen, has a reputation as a disappointingly easy fight.
Bro, man, the fucking guy's supposed to back up. He's unpredictable. And I'm getting sick and tired of this shit, bro. This is gonna be the last one if I don't fucking get this shit.
Attacking them makes them disappear
This guy's so
without so
annoying.
much as a sound effect. There should be a sound effect. Otherwise, you can bait her laser attack and run in for years, or easily dodge her apathetic scythe swings. She does have an AoE, but it's like, why? Is that really what's gonna save you? Number 11, Pursuer. The Pursuer is much more easily fought up in that open castle roof where you have plenty of room to move around. It's a bit more cramped over by the ballista, which you can use to do massive damage to the Pursuer if you're feeling particularly unskilled. You can strafe his charge attack no problem, otherwise rolling in a semi-acceptable manner will keep you safe from the rest. By the way, adaptability is the most important stat in this game. You're going to want that up to 26 to level up the agility substat if you don't want to be clipped every time you try to roll. Attunement also levels up agility if you're a mage. Agility controls not only the invincibility frames of your dodge, but also the amount of time it takes to drink an Estus flask, so it's essential to improve as early as possible, which is why I never level up anything else until that happens. Number 12, Guardian Dragon. For a boss that breathes fire, he sure doesn't resist it that well. It's Spyro all over again. Guardian Dragon is very frail. His only means of counterattack is to fly in the air and try to douse you in flames that he would also die from, apparently. If he clings to the wall, you want to go directly underneath him. Otherwise, hug the edge of the cage to avoid the Inferno Fire Blast. When he's on the ground, he's even easier than the Heidi Dragon. Your stamina factors in 0% in this fight, so go crazy with it. Number 13, Royal Rat Vanguard. Sweeping weapon, good. Thrust weapon, bad. If you can keep the rats at range, you're in a great spot. Kill enough of them, and the Big Daddy Mohawk rat comes out to play and take massive damage from your attacks. A couple teeth piercings from him will run your blood toxic, though. Also, it helps not to get petrified by the lesser rats, who for some reason have the better status affliction. Number 14, Mytha Baneful Queen. Gorgon Extraordinaire Mytha lives in a vat of poison that doesn't drain unless you torch the Earthen Peak windmill. If you don't torch it, your journey will not be a pleasant one. Mytha heals when she slithers around in poison, but her attacks are weak and very dodgeable. Only thing you want to watch out for is her soul spears she does out of her face she's holding. You know when you throw your face on the ground and it explodes, and then you quickly dive at it and snatch it up again? High school was fun. Number 15, the Rotten. The Rotten is all about patient dodges and stamina management. Like many of the people who came before him, he is easy to deal with, provided your sense of timing is at least slightly better than garbage. His arm can grab you and he's got AoE, but you can always back up for a second if you need a breather. What'll probably do the most damage to you is just walking on hot coals like a desperate magician. Number 16, Old Dragon Slayer. This is actually my second favorite fight in the game, because it's easy, but it still feels like you're hella good when you win. Little known fact, the identity of this Dragon Slayer is actually Smaug from Dark Souls 1. Hashtag bait, hashtag double bait, hashtag some of you will still take the bait. He's the first boss that doesn't seem like a pattern fiend programmed to only do a couple of things in strict order. He feels alive and aware. How come bosses get hyper armor whenever they miss attacks that leave them wide open? Why should they be rewarded for fucking up? Kill this man. Number 17, Ava, the King's Pet. Now this is my favorite battle. Again, it's easy, but it's cool as hell. Fighting a giant frost tiger is epic. Fighting two of them is ass, but we'll get to that. Ava has a wide array of magical abilities that are all very difficult to not dodge. Whether you're sprinting past the projectiles or backing up slowly against his AoEs, the real pleasure comes from rolling correctly past all his swipes and jump attacks. This is a fight where it matters what direction you roll. You want to roll toward the attacks so they pass you faster without clipping. I love to just bonfire aesthetic replay the boss until it gets too bulky for me to kill. It's that fun of an encounter. Number 18, Giant Lord. This boss is basically the last giant in a ghillie suit with a big-ass sword. Due to the camera, it's often hard to see where the sword attack will come from, but muscle memory dodge timing will get you through. If you've got a long weapon like me, you can hit multiple boss weak points with one strike for extra damage. Just keep poking at his undercarriage until he falls over. Number 19, Skeleton Lords. Pro tip, skeletons don't bleed. You use a bleed weapon on them, you make a fool out of yourself. I mean, maybe you can make them like gush marrow, but that would be a pretty specific status ailment to render. The lords have to gang up on you to make up for their flimsy ways, and when you kill them, they unleash even more horniness on your ass. One of them spawns the dreaded wheel skeletons, though not as many as he used to pre-PS4. You want to kill them as they're putting themselves together, like you're stomping a Lego creation your kid brother just spent an hour on. Number 20, Scorpioness Nachka. Nachka starts out buried up to her tits in sand hurling soul spears. It's not until she emerges from her doomed trap that the Scorpioness aspect comes into play. Abandon all hope of a nip slip slip, though, her hair is super glued to her bosoms in classic Dark Souls fashion, giving you Quelaag flashbacks as she impales you with her spear. You can cut off her tail stingers, but you're better off not doing that, because the attacks involving those leave her the most vulnerable. Eventually, she'll burrow under the desert again, but there's a safe zone on some bricks you can stand on to not be hit by her re-entry into society. Her most dangerous attack is her homing soul mass, which wouldn't be a problem if it just launched at you from far away, but she has a habit of chasing you down like a motherfucker after she casts it, giving you no time to evade. That doesn't mean you can't still chop her into bug bits, though. Number 21, Twin Dragon Riders. If you thought one Dragon Rider was hard, you'll probably never get to this boss. Twin Dragon Riders pits you against the same Dragon Rider you previously killed, along with one of his bowman friends who happens to have just the worst kind of armor. They both take pretty incredible damage, and it's worth taking a hit of theirs if you go all out with a move that strikes both of them. Just don't get cornered or comboed and you'll take it. Number 22, Executioner's Chariot. Welcome to the only fight in any Souls game that forces me to use a shield. To block with, anyway. This fight plays out like a NASCAR event with one chariot that you need to not get run over by. You'll spend most of your time hiding in gaps and getting cleaved by skeletons, hence why the shield is necessary to block them until the chariot smashes them to pieces. These Hex Girls are gonna put a spell on you, but mostly they just resurrect the skeletons, so you gotta do away with them. After you pull the lever at the end, the chariot rider goes splat on the iron bars, so you just have the horse to deal with, which isn't difficult, but what a slog to get here, right? Number 23, Lost Sinner. The Lost Sinner is mildly relentless, which led to her being a rather difficult fight for new players, but with knowledge of her patterns comes peace of mind. She landing lags her attacks more than she needs to, which creates small but prominent openings in her defense. If you do get injured, it can be harrowing to try and use Estus at the right moment to not die, but eventually this fight will seem trivial compared to the other bosses I've yet to name. No jokes for this one? Fucking lazy. Blah 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 bondage, blah blah sex dungeon. Number 24, Velstadt. A loyal servant to King Vendrick, even after his massive hollowing, Velstadt is nevertheless nothing more than a neat armor set with slow and predictable attacks, to the point where even he gets demoted to minion mob status in the Sunken King DLC. Maybe if he spent a little less time ringing the dinner bell and more time executing a plan of attack, he'd be formidable, but no such luck. Once imbued with darkness, he does get bulkier, but he finds his slowness too essential to give up, so he's still not much. Number 25, Smelter Demon. Smelter Demon is apparently very capable of shrugging off attacks from non-reinforced weapons and bleed rapiers that can't bleed him. I'm doing so little damage to him this whole fight that it takes over 10 minutes to win, but the fact that I can survive that mess means Smelter Demon is very handleable. His combos are straightforward to dodge, but after he ignites the stove in his body, you'll take continuous fire damage whenever you get near him. Other things to watch out for include his sword plunge AoE that has more range than the developers knew how to draw, I guess. Sometimes I touch myself at night thinking about what this fight would have been like with an actual weapon. Number 26, Sin, the Slumbering Dragon. The new Dark Souls 3 DLC has made me hate dragon bosses, but Sin isn't that bad. The key to avoiding his toxic shock syndrome is to follow him wherever he goes in the air, and he goes into the air a lot, so you might as well be training for a marathon. His dragon scales are stronger than most substances, and thus your weapons break easily upon striking him, so you want a bracing knuckle ring to slow degradation, unless you feel like junking your entire inventory. On the ground, Sin only has a couple forward-facing attacks, so you can wail on him with relative abandon if you get around to his sides. Even if he clips you with something, you'll always have enough time to heal after he inevitably takes to the sky immediately. I used to hate this fight before I knew what to do, and now it ain't no thing. Number 27, Duke's Dear Freya. I used to have zero issue with this boss, other than the fact that it's a disgusting phobia fucking nightmare. Then the PS4 Scholar of the First Sin edition of Dark Souls 2 came out and they decided that Dear Freya should have unlimited spider minions and a delayed version of its jaw clamp. You can still kind of tell whether the jaw clamp will be delayed or not based on how wide the mandibles spread before impact, but having to learn this new timing throws a huge wrench in the forward roll strat that carried me to easy victory so many times before. Dealing with annoying spiderlings throughout the whole fight instead of just the beginning if you clear them out fast enough is also wretched, but otherwise this is the same battle as before. The game makes you feel disgusting by making it so staying as close to Freya as possible is the best way to avoid damage. Without question, my least favorite boss in this game. Number 28, Royal Rat Authority. People always come into my post-Bloodborne boss rankings wondering who's gonna be that video's ROM, the anti-sunburned albino boss. But Dark Souls 2 has fucking 4 of them, and this is one, so strap in. Royal Rat Authority is undoubtedly the most bullshit boss in this game. Like the Capra Demon of Souls 1, this bitch relies on his toxicology minions to addle the hell out of you before he even jumps from his perch. If you don't kill them all immediately, you're gonna have a bad time. And if you get badly poisoned, you should just count yourself dead. managed to bring the encounter to a 1v1, it's not so terrible, but it has taken me attempt after attempt to reach that level of confidence. If you have bad agility, you can Alzheimer's about dodging any of his attacks, especially his charging headbutt, which is maybe the hardest move to learn the roll timing of in this entire game. As I always say to gold diggers, staying underneath him is the key to success. He'll often run away and charge headbutt you, which is why it's so important to learn how to roll inward and slightly to the right to get prime real estate behind his legs. I hate this boss. Number 29, Ruin Sentinels. I remember my early Souls career. I thought this boss was impossible to take down solo. A 3-on-1 fight? Who could ever manage that? But with experience comes arrogance and posturing, and random voice cracks, apparently. The Sentinels are weak to magic, so coating your weapon in it will demolish their health bars. You want to kill the first one before the second decides to jump up to a party he wasn't invited to. At that point, I just fall down and take him 2v1. All you have to do is wait for them to be in close to the same position, walk up and bait both of them into doing an attack at the same time, then use your opening to wail on whichever's the closest. Rolling attacks following a rolling dodge are another good way to safely approach. If you're struggling with Ruin Sentinels, it's easy to just say get good, but why settle for good? Get great, then you'll be in no trouble. Number 30, Elana, Squalid Queen. Elana is basically a smaller Nashandra, but she actually does stuff. She can spawn skeletons and a Velstad clone that can be real annoying to fight while you're trying to dodge her dark orbs. Her worst attack, though, is this explosion spell she casts that actually tracks your movement and tries to spawn where you're gonna be, so you can't just sprint in one direction away from it. I get caught in that explosion most of the time because it's such a big radius, too. She's also far less docile than Nashandra in terms of melee attacks, so you can't just beat her senseless with no regard for anything, which I don't prefer, but it's still not too demanding to send her back to the spirit realm. Number 31, Gank Squad. That's just their official name now, it's before my time. After traversing through a garbage petrification statue area, you come upon 3 adventurers with 0 lore significance who form a Destiny fire team to take you out. We've got a Havel clone with a dragon tooth who wouldn't stagger during an earthquake, some assassin-type dude with dual swords who has homing jump attacks somehow, and a guy with a big bow. The first 2 people will chase you everywhere you go, while the third sticks to the middle and tries to shoot you. So I like to lead the gankers on a quick perimeter check and then lose them long enough to dole out some major pain on the wannabe Elan Knight. Once he's dead, dealing with the 2 remaining assholes is just a matter of taking what few openings you'll get by baiting attacks from both dudes at once, while keeping in mind that you shouldn't attack Havel until he's done at least 3 consecutive swings. Backstab is your friend in this encounter, and the boss is your enemy, if that wasn't clear. Number 32, Throne Watcher and Defender. One watches and the other
Combo.
defends, which makes me wonder why the